Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Big thank you to our sponsor, Celebrity Coaches, providing transportation to the biggest names in entertainment. Thanks to Celebrity, we're hitting the road to talk to the pros that make concerts and live events happen. Today, we're on the streets of Nashville, Tennessee. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please leave us a comment. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe. Today's guest is a veteran in the touring world. She does everything from tour managing to artist management, from marketing to booking talent. She has tour managed for names like Reba, John Mayer, Janet Jackson, Brandi Carlile, Tiffany, Indigo Girls, Naco, and Medicine for the People, and most recently with Alanis Morissette. Other tours include Backstreet Boys, Blink-182, Kenny Chesney, George Strait, Rascal Flatts, and more. Off the road, she is an advocate and former member of the board of directors of Nashville's Thistle Farms, providing support for women surviving trafficking, prostitution, and addiction. Some of her very own weekly features on social media include Extraordinary Female Fridays and her very own book club. And she is also an accomplished photographer. I could brag on her all day, as she is a huge inspiration for females and the rest of us with her wealth of mad skills. I am so proud to call her a friend. She is the pride of Omaha, Nebraska, Carolyn Snell.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you for doing this.
What a nice intro.
Absolutely.
My mother will be so excited.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, we could go on and on and on. So you and I became unemployed simultaneously, but I haven't talked a lot about that on my end of things, but we should talk about your story of how things went at the beginning of the year and that sort of thing too. I also wanted to say that, like most everybody that I have on here, you said that you would be awkward on camera, but when I see your social media things and stuff, you do great stuff on camera.
You're sweet.
So
I do a lot of editing. Just a lot of takes.
Well, there's always a lot of editing, but you're a good communicator, and you should, like, if you're going to have to pivot, then you should call Entertainment Tonight or somebody and do one of those things.
Start a little smaller, but yes, I like that.
And my co-host is Leon. So, what is your animal history? You're a cat person or a dog person?
It's funny. My handle on social media is Snelly Cat.
Yeah.
But I'm actually a dog person.
Okay.
Like, I'm not a huge cat person.
Yeah.
I had Samoyeds growing up too. Like, they're like white Siberian Husky dogs.
Yeah.
And I've had a new recent re-obsession with them. So if you go to my Instagram, when you search something that shows you your favorites, it's just full of Samoyeds.
Oh, nice.
I don't think I could have a dog right now, although, we've talked about this.
I wouldn't have done it until I figured out I wasn't going anywhere for a while. So.
And suddenly there's Leon.
Well, and then he had to come with me, so it's basically his show.
It's so good to have a dog around you, that energy of just like...
Oh, absolutely.
It's so good.
Especially at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the ugly truth of the pandemic and talk about how our year was started out January, February, and what we were looking forward to and those things, and how that kind of came to you and what that felt like and how you've adjusted.
Well, I'm so great. Honestly, I'm grateful that we had at least a couple of months to work together. And we knew each other. We met a couple years before that. Yeah. And so having that moment where I was like, wait a minute, I know that guy. And we got on the Atlantis gig together. Yeah. I got hired right before Christmas last year. And this is going to be a year and a half tour, and we're going to be worldwide. And it was so great, really coming into this year being like, this year is going to be amazing. And having that and going out for 3 weeks in Europe and having that experience and just kind of learning the people and how all the things are going to work. Yeah. And then it coming to a halt. And I don't think anybody really understood what that meant. Right. Everything was pushed back, right? It wasn't just stopped.
Right. So we were with Alanis in Europe, and we were doing a promo tour. Mm-hmm. And I feel like right when we were leaving to go there in February, pandemic talk and wearing masks. I wore a mask on the long trip over.
You were way prepared. I didn't even think about. I knew about it or I heard about it, but like overseas, even though we were going overseas.
It was just. I think a mask is a good idea on a plane anyway.
Sure, smart.
But typically when we go overseas, I always see a lot of people with masks before pandemic, So and then by the time we got to the end of that run, the last show we did was in London.
Yeah.
there was a lot of masks, and there was already a lot of talk. There was some people that were supposed to come to that show that didn't because they were kind of being told to stay home. Yeah. So anyhow, we came home together first week of March.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember Alanis had an event later that week, or 2 weeks later maybe, in LA.
Yeah.
And I was going to go out there, and I remember thinking, okay, now it's starting to actually seem a little more serious, and emailing with management. And then finally at the last minute, the gig got canceled. It was another promo thing, and it got canceled, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And everything we've seen has been pushed back, and now we're rescheduled for June of this coming year, 2021. But I don't even know what that looks like.
Well, we spent some time thinking, okay, well, another month. We'll push this out of the way. We pushed the Australia thing out of the way. We pushed some Europe stuff out of the way. And I was crossing my fingers hard for June.
Yeah.
And then when that came and went, got postponed, that's when I knew that we weren't going anywhere. And then you had a birthday in March too, so that was right at the beginning of this thing.
Yeah.
Were you able to?
That was my first. It was like the beginning of quarantine. I think really everything shut down after that.
Yeah.
And so, it was my last. Actually, went to the cafe at Thistle Farms. They do this beautiful high tea setup, and so I got a high tea to go and took it home.
Oh wow!
And that was my last time out for a few months before we could really go, back out into the
everything was pretty
world.
locked down pretty hard for a while. Well, part of the things that I like to talk about here is just sort of the perception and the misunderstanding about some people outside of the industry, because there are a few events that happen here and there. But I don't know if you've been around. Have you seen or been to anything event-wise?
I've done a couple of virtual events.
Oh yeah.
But nothing else really.
But these limited capacity audience things and these drive-in things, I just kind of keep reminding people outside the industry is that's nice, but that's nothing that's going to sustain any of us. There's not enough jobs involved in that to keep us all working. And when you limit the capacity, you limit the amount of money going into the production, so it doesn't pay for the show that you're getting. But anyhow,
I should say I did go to one event now that you said that. A friend of mine, singer-songwriter, and he and his wife do booking as well, and booked a show. And this was like end of summer, so it was outside of Meet and Greet on Music Row. And they had tables spread out, and they had an artist stage, and it was great. But again, same thing. It's like
limited.
And he invited me to come, and tickets. There was a price for tickets, but there's not that many people there to buy tickets, so it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, and the larger the venue you start getting into, now they're talking about how when real shows that they're going to some way check to see if you've either been tested or have gotten the vaccine.
Wow.
And so the logistics in that, especially for a larger venue, getting through the door, and just like everybody has an excuse when they get to the door, when they don't have, like, I don't know how they're going to do it. If they're going to use an app, or how they're going to do it where you register and you've got the vaccine or you've been tested, all those things. It's like that process of getting through the door and getting a crowd through the door.
Right.
And lines, controlling lines. And then when you talk about concessions and you talk about bathroom lines and things like that, it's just all those logistics to put on a show. Just it's already a large task as it is. So it's a lot to overcome. Getting back to having large crowds and people feeling comfortable being in large crowds. So,
I mean, right now, would you go to a show with 20,000 people?
No.
Right.
No, and that's the thing is, I know there's a lot of people that would be and would be fine with it, but there's just as many that wouldn't.
Exactly.
And so that prevents us from having a full house.
Yeah.
But not to dwell on that stuff. I mean, a lot of that stuff is kind of obvious. So you're in East Nashville.
I am.
Did you always live in East Nashville when you moved here?
I moved here in 2002 and moved to Sylvan Park.
Okay. And
rented. And then when I was getting ready to buy, I realized I couldn't afford Sylvan Park. I wish I would have known. I could have bought then, but you didn't know.
Yeah.
So I bought in East Nashville, and I got in right before it really blew up.
Right.
So I got in at a good time.
Right. So for people that don't know Nashville or East Nashville has its own thing.
Yeah.
Describe that
when I first moved and I lived in Sylvan Park, they said East Nashville's for musicians, so don't move there. And I thought, I'm on the industry side. I don't want to live over there. And then when I got over here, I was like, oh no, this is just like cool people and different kinds of people, and
it's a different vibe.
Yeah, it's really good though. I like it a lot.
Absolutely. And the other thing that we share is the tornado experience that we were out of town. We were out of the country for.
I mean,
did your place survive?
It survived, but I am a block away from where it really hit on Woodland Street. And we were in London. Yeah. So at 8:30 in the morning, I started getting texts from random people checking in on me. And I went, oh, yeah, I'm great. How are you? Yeah. They said, check Instagram and see what's going on. And that's when I first heard about it. Yeah. Was your house affected?
No, I'm in Franklin. But I know East Nashville was hit hard, and I know you were very close to it. And lucky if you...
Very lucky that I missed it. I've done a couple of like volunteer checking on people things for tornado, just to check in, and there's still houses that are down. There's still businesses. Oh,
and there's a lot of stuff because of the pandemic that their relief got slowed down. Yeah. So when we got back from Europe, all that had just happened a week before, and everybody was volunteering, and I was getting ready to come out this way and start figuring out who I could help out, how I could pitch in. And that was the weekend that everything shut down. And so a lot of those people suffered through all that and then had to get shut down. And like you say, there's still a lot of stuff that hasn't been repaired. And
buildings that were wiped away. Burger Up, which was one of my favorite restaurants right down the street from me, is just gone. Oh. It's so sad.
And they don't have plans to rebuild?
I have no idea. And they have another location, which is great, but it's just having that idea of like, not only is there a pandemic, but like your whole business or home and it's just wiped away. It's been devastating for a lot of people. And then the ones that could get up and going, then the pandemic comes and it's kind of like limits your business. Yeah. So, all right. So before we tell the Carolyn Snell story, if you hadn't got into the music business, what do you think you would have been doing? Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, at 15, I knew I wanted to do this, so I've never had I've never had a plan B, which is why this is even a harder time for me, because I thought, do I have a plan B now? Do I need to make one?
Okay, so going back to Omaha. DJ Gross High School. And did you play an instrument in school?
I did not. I played piano growing up a little bit because my mom made me.
Lessons?
Yeah, 3 years of lessons, then I quit. But yeah, I was a pom-pom girl and a dancer growing up.
So what do you think was the first thing that got your attention?
I know exactly what it was. It was in 1990 when I was, let's say 89. That's the first, I went to my first New Kids on the Block concert. And that was my like boy band from way back when. Still is my number one. New Kids. Okay. And I went to a concert and I saw people running around. Now knowing it, they're guitar techs and audio guys.
People running around.
I was like, who are they? And
what are they doing?
Yeah, are they with the New Kids on the Block? Can I do that? And that was my first really inkling of like, oh, there's a job here.
There's a job.
Yeah. And that was I'm gonna go. I mean, the initial goal was to work with the New Kids on the Block.
That was in Omaha?
That was in Omaha. Yeah.
What venue was that?
Well, it was at the Nebraska State Fair in '89, and then the Omaha Civic Auditorium, which is now gone, R.I.P., in 1990.
And so did you continue to go to a lot of concerts, things like that?
I did, yeah. Went to a lot of concerts. And then when I was graduating from high school, figuring out, like, how do I get on the road? And, of course, not knowing about what jobs there were, if there were
great.
any, I don't even know what to do, but I knew radio. That was my one thing, because that's what we had growing up in music okay, listen to the radio. So I went to Emerson College in Boston and looking to do radio.
Okay.
That was how it started.
So how did you find Emerson?
A friend of mine who I met at a New Kids on the Block concert was a year, this is, it's sick but true. Okay. She was a year older than me, and she was looking at schools, and she found Emerson, and it helped that, it was in Boston, which is where they're from. Yeah. So it was, an extra bonus, but it was communications and performing arts. So because of my dancing background, and I wanted to be in radio, I was like, oh, this is perfect. I wanted to get out of the Midwest, try the East Coast. New York was just a little too big. Right. So I got in, and that began my career that actually changed a little bit, because I had one radio show, and this is what it's so funny now doing this with you. Yeah. Is I had a radio, with a microphone sitting there, and I was by myself, and it was so lonely. And I thought, I don't want to do this. So I switched my degree to public relations because that was a little more generic. And I could still work in music.
And that was a big jump for you, going from Omaha.
Huge.
Yeah.
And Emerson doesn't have a campus, per se. They say that Boston is the campus.
Okay.
So I recently went back, actually last December I was there and walking around, and I thought this was a huge moment for me to go from, a very tidy and neat and comforted home area to this big city of Boston.
Urban.
Yeah. And not know anyone, truly.
And you did, you worked with WKLB.
I did.
Jenny and Mike.
You did such good research, I'll say. I was like, what?
But they're mutual friends. I know that I don't get to talk to them much, but, they've been around doing that for so long. Yeah.
And it was funny because that was a country radio station. Now, even though I'm from Nebraska, I did not listen to country.
Yeah.
It was just the closest radio station to my dorm in the Prudential Center.
Perfect.
So I was like, okay. And my boss at the time, who was the promotions director, Kara Storm, I'm still friends with her to this day.
Yeah.
And I remember coming in and being like, a female promotions director. Like, I can do this.
Yeah,
this is something I can do. So
very cool.
Yeah, she was my first influential woman.
That's awesome. And so then from there, what was the first thing that you did that was related to doing something going on the road or doing something with live events?
Well, I worked through KLB. We did, shows that came through. So we'd go to Foxwoods Casino, and
perfect.
It was so great. And of course, now looking back as an intern, I was loving hanging up banners and just doing whatever it took.
Yeah.
Making sure the artist was happy from the radio station side, which of course, looking back now, is like, it's a different view when you're
different task. Yeah.
But no, it was great. And then I went to my last semester for school. I went to LA. And I did internships there. So I worked at the Greek Theater, and I worked at the Work Group. So I got a little bit of label experience.
Awesome.
Yeah. So.
Is there other females that inspired you?
Yeah. So Kara in WKLB, when I went to the Greek Theater in LA, my boss there was a woman named Wendy, and she gave me the nickname Snelly Cat. And so I always think about her, and we're still friends as well. And she was, I remember, because my last name is Snell, my nickname in college was Snelly, and that was right around friends. And she's like, oh, like Smelly Cat, Snelly Cat. So I have her to thank.
That's awesome.
So yeah, two definitely strong women in my life.
Very cool. Okay, and so then from there, what got you? What got you moving?
So I came back to Omaha after I graduated because, of course, I had no money. And, I was living in LA, and my parents were like, we're not helping you out. You can figure it out. So I moved back to Omaha and worked at actually an artist management company in Omaha, a small company there. But I really wanted to go on the road.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that I had worked with in a radio station in Omaha that said, I know one woman, and I need to find who this person is because I don't remember who it was, but he said, I know a friend, and she works in the music industry and touring. And she said either do merchandising or do corporate sponsorship on tour. Those are the two ways to get in.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, I don't know what that means, but sure. And at the time I went to Borders bookstores, and I'd open up Billboard magazine and look for people who were touring. Yeah. And one of the tours was Lilith Fair, which was, Sarah McLachlan and original all women fronted female artists or female fronted bands going on tour. And I just looked, and they had a bunch of sponsors. Yeah. And so blindly I just started calling all the sponsors are Starbucks and Tower Records, and people were going, who is this and what do you want to do? You have no experience, you're female, and you're 21. No. And finally, the last sponsor I called, which was Biore Pore Strips. Do you remember you put them on your nose and then you rip them off, clean your pores out? Yeah. Called them, and they put me in touch with the ad agency out of Florida. And I talked to this woman. She goes, yeah, we need people to go on the road. So that was my first gig. And I got on, and I drove a van, and I picked up 15,000 pore strips every show and hired models to hand them out at the gigs. Like, it was the most random but perfect way in. Right. And I loved it. And I thought, this is my life. This is awesome. Gonna be perfect.
Well, I think that's a great idea for anybody that's trying to get into it. merchandise too. It's like and then you can get out there and you can see what else is going on.
Yes.
And you might find something else.
Yes.
And so did you have the idea of tour manager in mind, or you just thought, I want to be on the road and be around music, and there's something there for me?
I think kind of a mix. I didn't know the tour manager, what that role meant.
Yeah.
But I do remember I actually wrote the management company of Sarah network management to ask for a job on the road.
Yeah.
And the tour manager wrote me back and said, thank you, but no thank you. And I remember I kept his letter, his refusal letter, because I thought, okay, there's a good title. That could be something. And then, so my advice, of course, with younger women especially, but other people, is that, go for your dream. But if you don't get it, like, there's side doors. Yeah. Try for the main goal, but, corporate sponsorship on the road, I didn't know that would lead to this.
Right.
But it worked.
Well, and it's organizing and it's details.
Yes.
Which is a lot of the jobs that are out there on the road.
Yeah.
And so, then what was one of the first artists that you transitioning from sponsorships to production assistant, or?
Well, so I did a more corporate sponsorship on the road, and really, the good news about once you're in, you're around everybody that's on the tour.
Yeah.
Exactly. So from the first year of Lilith Fair, the next year they did a talent search local or around the country, and then there's, I think, 20 cities. The winner of that would go on to Lilith Fair, and so I was the talent search coordinator, and so I went around. And funny story is that we did Nashville, played at 12th and Porter. And it was like Holly Gleason was a judge and Brad Schmidt, like people that I know now.
Yeah.
So funny. And in Atlanta, the band that won was called Soul Miner's Daughter, which was with Jennifer Nettles.
Oh, wow.
And so, just knowing that, eventually we'd work together. It's just such a small, crazy world.
Yeah.
But did sponsorship for a long time. And then I was on the Kenny Chesney tour in 2002. And when this was my first time into the country world from rock and pop, so instead of doing our normal 3-month tours, this was a 9-month gig, and doing the Weekend Warriors and going out, leaving Thursday, coming back Sunday.
Right.
So I really got to know the band and crew there, and so I was helping out when I was done with my corporate sponsorship work, helping out set up the dressing room and stuffing tickets and passes. And so when his tour manager, Kenny's tour manager, needed an assistant the next year, I was like, hey, I'm already doing it.
Yes.
Hire me.
Perfect.
So that was my assistant tour manager, was my first gig out of
sponsorships?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And Kenny Chesney, not a bad place to start.
Not at all. For his first headlining tour as well. So that was a fun time to see him really blow up and go into arenas from when he was doing, smaller clubs and theaters into arenas.
So, being that you did some stuff with the Backstreet Boys, things like that, were you ever able to talk to the New Kids on the Block and tell them your your obsession from when, or how they got you into this?
Absolutely. Well, it's funny, when I got Backstreet, everyone was so excited for me, and I said, it's great, but it's not New Kids, so it's like it's a nice second thing. But actually last year, 2019, thank God it wasn't this year. I saw New Kids on the Block were going out, and I thought, you know what, I can finally now. I have the experience. I've done this.
Yeah.
I'm going to apply for this role. I'm going to try to get on. Hey.
You're interrupting.
We're literally in the middle of my New Kids story.
Exactly.
Ambulance. And also, sorry for that person that needs help. So I thought, kind of similar to getting on the road the first time. Like, I'm going to go. I went straight to the manager. I talked to him, and he said, you have a great resume, but they have a tour manager. Thank you anyway. And I thought, there's got to be another way in. And so this was the mixtape tour, and so they had 4 opening acts, and one of them was Tiffany, who is from Nashville, or lives in Nashville, and she also had performed at the Thistle Thursdays live music series at the cafe at Thistle Farms.
Cool.
So we had already had a relationship, so I reached out to her and I just said, I'm just taking a chance here, but do you need a tour manager? And she said, I do, actually.
That's awesome.
So I was able to go on tour with her as her tour manager with New Kids on the Block. It was like the perfect storm of everything together.
Oh, totally. Well, then, and you can enjoy New Kids more if you're not working directly for them.
It's so good. It was actually perfect. And the tour was set up, and I don't know, Don, if you've had this experience, but it was set up like a mixtape. So New Kids started, and then Tiffany came up, did one song, and then Debbie Gibson
I didn't
came up.
realize that.
Yeah, so it was like back and forth. So she performed multiple times throughout the night. So
that's awesome.
I had to watch the show every night to make sure the cues were ready.
Exactly right.
So it was a dream.
That's unbelievable.
Sure.
That's a very cool story, though.
Thanks.
You got to do it that way, and you get to relive your teenage memories and stuff like that.
It was
too.
great. And there was the moment they had a song where they would do like the kiss cam in the audience.
Yeah.
And I actually brought my parents and some of my girlfriends that I grew up with to the show in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh, very cool.
And they had the moment, and I knew the video guys, so they put my parents on the kiss cam. It was like the perfect moment.
Oh my God.
Bringing it all together.
That is so cool. What a full circle. That's
really
awesome.
Is.
Okay, so I know that you've worked for Reba for quite some time.
Yeah, I worked with her for a decade.
Yeah.
It's my longest relationship.
I was going to say, was that the longest? Yeah, longest relationship. Is that the longest you worked for a single artist?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And I know y'all are still friends to this day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So is there anybody that you're surrounded with now that you're hearing their plans? Does anybody have...
I mean, I don't know how you can plan. And as people who plan for a living, that's what we do.
Exactly. It's the toughest thing.
I think that is the hardest part, is not even thinking about like, okay, I'm going to go to Omaha for the holidays. And I thought, but do I drive there? Do I fly? Like, I don't even know how to do that part.
The lack of structure is really hard to deal with.
I feel like this is all happening. I mean, for all of us, this is not happening to us for punishment, but I do think this is a time for us to challenge us and think, like, how do we take that information in? Because it's like we don't have control over what's happening. It's all we have control over is our attitude towards it.
No, yeah, and exactly. And in our industry too, there's so many careers and positions that are pretty much non-existent, not available.
Right. Yeah.
And it seems like everybody else around us has gone back to work to some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really hard to watch. It's really hard to understand and just not have that sort of backup system. Like I have a couple of different acts that I work with, and when somebody's not busy, somebody else is, or there'll be another production or another event or something. It's nothing.
And I think all of our skill set, like we can organize, we can do logistics.
Right.
But people that don't work in the music industry, I don't think understand how that would translate.
Right.
So even looking for jobs, I'm like, I don't know what to look for because...
Yeah, our resume doesn't translate to some of these other things.
No.
And one of the first things I thought of when I was getting past the part of not knowing that there wasn't a real artist gig, it's just, I thought, well, event management and things like that.
Yeah.
There's just not that many events.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of people outside of our industry that got laid off from all those other jobs too.
Right.
So, anyhow.
Well, this is brilliant. So. Oh,
thanks. This is the start of it. The podcast is the start of it, and it's, putting a spotlight on people like you that do a lot of things that don't get a lot of credit. A lot of the people outside our industry don't know.
Yeah.
Like you said, when you went to a concert, you saw people running around. It's like, what is going on back there?
Yes, exactly.
A lot of people think that the artist shows up and jumps on stage and all that stuff is already there.
Yeah. And jumps on stage from the car that they got in, from the hotel they got from the flight. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
There's so many things that go into it.
Exactly.
So I would say to some degree, this business is still very male dominated. Mm-hmm. How much resistance and how much you've had to deal with, has there been any particular serious resistance or discrimination that you've dealt with? And
well, the good news. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that you care to share.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. The good news is that my first tour, like I said, was Lilith Fair. So it was 60% male, 40% female, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Especially in the this was late 90s.
Yeah.
So I really thought there were female riggers. There was a female lighting director. I thought, oh, this is how it is.
Yeah, yeah.
The next tour I did was anger management with Limp Bizkit, and there was literally 4 females total of the whole tour.
Yeah.
When I did Kenny Chesney, I was the only female for the first year. So it was a different dynamic, and I didn't really notice it at first. I noticed it, but it wasn't a problem, I should say. I felt, especially in Kenny, it was like I was everyone's sister or mother, So that was okay. But as, there have been definitely incidences that I'm lucky that I didn't have really a big Me Too moment, but there were times where I could go, if we were in an office, if there was an HR department, you would 100% be fined or fired, inappropriate, but it's one of those things where, and unfortunately, as a female, you have to kind of roll with the punches to stay on. Yeah. And when you're coming up in the industry, even if I would have said anything, who am I going to say it to?
Right.
And this guy has been with the crew for this long, so I'm not going to.
Yeah.
So, half the time it's just you kind of go with it.
Yeah.
But like I said, nothing too extreme, thank God.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful now, though, to see more females come up.
There is.
And it's hard that there is no HR department, but I think because of groups, maybe out of the pandemic, that are coming together, that there's a place for women to talk to each other.
Yeah.
There's a place for people to actually voice their opinions and their thoughts and talk about the problems that are going on. And people aren't just pushing it under the rug now. They're actually talking about it.
Yeah, I think it's gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gotten better overall, whether it's because of all the stuff that came out of Hollywood recently and all those things getting some attention.
Right.
It's what it needed.
Yeah,
it needed.
For sure.
But I also like that there's a lot more of the technical positions that girls are taking now, audio and lighting and rigging and things like that.
For
sure. It balances things out quite a bit. So besides Tiffany and New Kids, was there any other artists that you really went after that that was would have been big goals for you? And
one was John Mayer. After I was with Kenny for 5 years, the good thing about country is that it's very consistent. You're playing a lot of the same venues every year. You have kind of the same map of the U.S.
Right.
But there's not a lot of international travel, and I really wanted to do international. And I loved John Mayer, loved.
Yeah.
And so, being in the music industry and then knowing the players, somebody I'd met who knew his manager and got my resume over there. And so I got the assistant tour manager job with John for his Continuum album world tour. And that was magic. That was like going around the world and listening to my favorite artist, another favorite artist, again every night. It was just great. So I've been super lucky to the artists that I've gone for. I've gotten. And even Alanis, I saw her, the anniversary tour of Jagged Little Pill, which was my college anthem.
Right.
And I thought, I want to get on that. And, here we were.
Well, you're inspiring a lot of people because you've found a way in a lot of these different things.
Yeah.
So, not that you have to give away names or anything like that, but some of your strategy, talk about that.
So a lot of it, it's funny now because at the time there was no email or even really internet.
That's true.
Not to date myself, but I still had
I'm
dial-up.
with you.
So really, but I had to go and call, go through the phone book and call companies, and so I get a lot of people that have emailed me now and just asked, how do I get in? And so, I don't know. There's a part of me that's kind of like, no, I worked really hard. I don't want to just give away my secrets. On the other hand, for the one woman that told me to be in corporate sponsorship, and I did it, and here I am. I want to be grateful and pass that forward. So a lot of it is just looking, seeing the players and figuring out who does what.
Well, without giving away any particular, it's still a strategy of pursuing and not giving up and knowing that there is another way. If you can't get in that door, there's another door.
Absolutely. There's actually a woman I met. There was an event in Arizona last year, and I went to. First time ever I've been to. And Tourlink Pro,
Tourlink Pro.
There it is. I was like, I know it's there. And I met a woman who lives in Des Moines, Iowa, so right next to Nebraska, and she's done live events in Iowa and wants to go on the road. And I went up to her and just said hello. I'm from Omaha, isn't that funny? Midwest. And she has kept up, and she has been so persistent, and it's, she's in my mind now. So anytime I hear of somebody looking, I think of her first because she's done it. Cherish Anderson.
Yep, that's definitely something that I've done. You kind of got to get your name in front of somebody and let them know what you're doing, and
exactly.
Time comes around, they'll think about you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you turned down?
Oh, that's great. You know what? My favorite turn down story is that when I was with Reba, about mid-Reba, I got an email and a call from a good friend of mine who I was on the Backstreet Boys with for years before that, and said, hey, my boss lady, because I called Reba my boss lady, she goes, my boss lady needs a summer tour manager. Do you think that your boss lady would let you take off for the summer? She'll write you a note. She'll write you a doctor's note. And it was Bette Midler. And I was like, damn, I really want to go with Bette Midler, but I cannot leave Reba.
Yeah.
So it was a really sweet moment that I was like, I'm grateful that to me thought of.
Yeah.
But she goes, she'll just write her a note and she'll say that this is why she needs you. And
that'll be fine.
That's not how it works, but I appreciate that.
Yeah. Plus, you get so in somebody's family like that with Reba.
Oh yeah.
It's not easy to walk out of that.
Yeah.
But is there, and you don't have to talk about names if you don't want to, but what are the things that you're looking for, and what are the things that you're not looking for? If I'm sure you've been approached about some positions and decided that's not for me.
Yeah, I think right now I've been really lucky to work with a lot of females, which I really enjoy, and I think there's a good vibe that I have with them.
Sure.
I don't know if I don't know. There's, I'm kind of a snob, and I've done 2 van tours, and I was like, yeah, I like a bus. Let's just stick on that. So I think those are the only things, unless I absolutely loved the artist. But even then, I mean, this bus right now that we're on, it's magic.
It's therapeutic.
Yes, it is.
Besides a van, and for me, sometimes it's like duration. Well, how long is this thing?
Right.
Because if you don't know the people, you never know what you're going to get until you get out there, and everybody's they reveal themselves.
Yes.
But if it's only a month, or if it's a couple months, or a couple weekends, then I can deal with whatever that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think too, after I've had a couple of long-term tours, which has been amazing, or not even tours, but artist relationships for a long time. And so this past year, starting with NACO and Medicine for the People, that was my first here's this band, you don't know them, but they need a fill-in tour manager for a week.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'm not doing anything else, why not? And it was one of the most magical tours I've been on, because I didn't know anything about the artist. It was just to do my job, no matter who it was for.
Right.
And it was awesome. So I love that opening up to being like, okay, universe, God, what do you have for me?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
And was this one of their first big tours?
This was they've been a band for a while.
Yeah.
And it was a club tour. It was literally 5 shows, and their tour manager had a family emergency, and so their manager, who I know, contacted me, and it was one of those things that I didn't know the artist, and I thought, but it's a gig, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And it was really I'm a huge fan now, and NACO's amazing, and so it was a really sweet time for me. And what's funny is that I feel like at the time when I didn't know what I was going to do next, I had my fists closed, what am I going to do, and how am I going to control it? And as soon as I released and let go, I think God was like, all right, your hands are finally open. Now I can drop this in.
Yeah.
So I got NACO. I got the call for Janet Jackson, which was one of my hugest tours.
Yeah.
Charlie Puth, and then Alanis, just in a row. So I think too of not, going for what you want, but also being open to see what happens.
Tell me about Janet. That had to be pretty intricate. Had to be pretty tedious in terms of details.
She absolutely, it's Janet, Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. She's an icon. So making sure everything was set, but also the tour manager I was subbing for on that had everything down pat.
Yeah.
The band, the dancers, the crew was just, they've been with her for a while. So it was a routine already established. But it was great, and it was in Australia, and we had a tour manager in there that was helping us out. So it was a really sweet deal. But that was pretty spectacular to work with her.
Yeah, and
she's amazing.
Production, huge production.
Yeah.
Anything that you can recall that was maybe one of your tougher jobs?
There's always a thing, or there's always either issues on the road of people you're dealing with or whatever. Yeah. But my just to out myself.
It's usually people.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
You don't have to name names,
but
it's usually people. It's usually somebody.
Yes, that always. There's some people that they've been either doing it for a long time and just aren't happy anymore, or they just find reasons to not get it. I mean, we're in this space, which is a tight space. Yeah. Just get along and just try to work with each other. There's some people that don't do that.
Well, exactly. You're living together, you're traveling together, you're eating together, basically, working together. So all right. So let's talk about your stuff in here in Nashville. You have a lot of little projects. Even though you're unemployed right now, you're still been very busy.
I'm very busy. Here's the thing. Busy is my drug of choice.
Absolutely.
So I have to, even this is yes. Thank you for giving me a job today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reason to put on pants.
So tell us about Thistle Farms. That's been around for a while, and you're a big advocate there. Yeah. So tell me all about that.
So Thistle Farms is a nonprofit in Nashville. It's a community of women survivors of addiction, prostitution, and trafficking. They come off the streets or out of jail. They live for free for 2 years at no cost to them. Wow. They get everything taken care of: housing, food, clothing, therapy, dental appointments, like everything. And as they're getting their lives together and getting their help that they need, they've realized that even though they were, especially at the beginning in 1997 when it was founded, the women would come out clean and sober and try to get jobs, and no one would hire them because they have no job skills, they have felonies, some of them. So they started a social enterprise called Thistle Farms, which makes bath and body products. So they make all the products in-house, they sell them, market them, all that. They also opened up a cafe in 2010 on 52nd and Charlotte. Stop by. And have a shop. So like you can buy the products online, you can come in and shop. It's such a great way of helping people, but also helping them help themselves.
These survivors get to have jobs in there?
Yes.
Okay.
So they make all the products themselves.
Oh, very
They're
cool.
in marketing, they're in sales, they're in the cafe, baristas now, like everything. So
do some of them go through their 2 years and still get to work there? Or
that's what they do. They started and they about 6 months into the program, they work at Thistle Farms. They get that opportunity. Once they graduate, the idea hopefully is that they still work there, but if they want to get a job somewhere else, now they have job skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Now they can go and find work other places, but most of them stay at Thistle Farms.
And you have some sort of a venue there.
Yeah, so it's the cafe.
Okay.
When it first opened in 2010, I've been a part of it since 2008.
Okay.
And I got involved honestly because I had ended a tour and I ended a relationship that also happened to be on the tour. I never do that. At the same time. So I went from like my whole life to nothing.
Right.
And I was just depressed and in my house, and my mother was like, go volunteer somewhere. And I hate it because mothers are always right. Most of the time, and my mother's always right. And so I was looking for a place to volunteer and found Thistle Farms, and it changed my life. Like it was just a place that, even though some of the stories that women have that are in the program aren't mine, we share the same thing, which is what we all share, is that we're all broken. We all have brokenness.
Absolutely.
And so finding that healing is just magic. So
and helping them through it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And helping them means helping myself. Yeah. Like I helped in air quotes, but like really they saved me from myself.
Yeah.
So it was great. So when the cafe opened in 2010, I'd been helping out and doing volunteer stuff and just helping with social media and just trying to do whatever they needed. Right. And when they opened the cafe, I thought, well, we should do live music here because it's a cafe and we're in Nashville. Yeah. And so they said, that's a great idea, go ahead. And so I went, okay.
So you start booking the talent?
Well, yeah, so I got a crew together. I got some women from CAA, another manager in town, a bunch of people, a couple managers actually, and we started this Thistle Thursdays live music series.
Very cool.
It started once a week, which was insane. I don't know what I was thinking. That was way too much work. And then we went to once a month, but we did it for 15 months, and it was awesome. And we got, over 130 artists to perform there with all the side players and bands together, and we raised $20,000. It was just really special.
Yeah, is there other sort of like fundraising ventures?
Yeah, we have every year. Let's say this: every year until the pandemic, we had a fundraiser at the Ryman, and it would raise money for the whole organization, and it was this amazing night. And it's funny because this is where I could really help with fundraising and use my skills in tour management and artist management together. So we, Reba's performed there and Brandy Carlisle, and we had people come in, and it was just a great way, a night of music and story and song together to raise money. So that's some of our bigger ones. Now, of course, we have to transition a little bit, and we're talking about, maybe a virtual event or some other ideas to help fundraise.
I'm sure their website has a place to donate and things like that.
Absolutely. Thistlefarms.org.
We'll post all that.
Yay.
So people can.
And they have great products to buy, and for any time, holidays or other time, they have amazing candles, especially.
Awesome.
I'm a favorite.
And did you tell me they're developing a podcast?
So I'm actually working on that right now.
Okay.
This is one of those things that I went to them and said, okay, I have time now.
Yeah.
Where do you need it? Yeah, exactly. And so they said, this is an idea. And so I'm actually working with Jordan Hamlin, who's an engineer in town, with the studio Moxie. And I'm working with Jacob Lewis and Carrie Ed Harmon with Great Feeling Studio. And we're actually working on the pilot right now, and it's pretty exciting.
Very cool.
And it's a new thing I've never thought about doing in the past, but it's pretty exciting.
And what what do you think you're going to center the topics around?
So this is a great question, because when we started talking about it, we were trying to think about ways to tell the stories of the women and what to do, and kind of coming up with all these ideas. And Bobby, who works in the marketing department and who's a survivor, said, what about the circle? So the circle is every Wednesday we have a meditation circle that is centered around a candle that is lit for the woman that is still on the streets looking for her way home. And they read from a book called Find Your Way, and they all go around the circle and people share reflections. And it's like, awesome. We do that every week. We've been doing it for 20 years.
Wow.
That is, of course, what we're going to center on.
So you're just going to bring a microphone into that thing, basically.
Exactly.
That's
record
awesome.
that, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have, like, what I say about this too is, like, everybody has a story.
Yes.
And those survivors, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we're all survivors. That's a good thing. You can listen to it and go, that line might not be where I was, but I know that feeling being broken. I know that feeling of being hopeless. I know that feeling of being in a pandemic, of trying to figure out lives. Like, that's what it is.
Well, plus we can also appreciate where we are when we see somebody that's got it way worse than you know.
And the stories of hope that come from that too.
Absolutely. Okay, so then you also were producing some shows for the Center for Contemplative Justice. Tell me about that.
So we have an event coming up. The Center for Contemplative Justice has an event every year that happens on Valentine's Day, and they support 2 nonprofit organizations, one in Botswana, it's an HIV clinic, and one in Ecuador, it's a school.
Wow. And
every year they do this this event that is called The Greatest Show Ever. And it is musicians in Nashville, which, of course, as you know, are like really talented musicians. Yeah. And they do an event every year where they impersonate dead musicians or musicians with dead careers, which I think is perfect. It's hysterical.
It's one or the other.
Yeah. And
this is how you qualify. You either have to be dead or your career has to be dead. That's how you qualify.
It's fine. And with the pandemic, you can kind of do anybody now,
absolutely.
Right? So Becca Stevens, who's the founder of Thistle Farms and who also is involved with this organization, asked me to produce the event for next year. So it's a virtual event. We're actually going to work with TNDV, which is Nick Duggar out of Nashville, that is going to help record all of the performances, and then we'll do a live show on the 14th, and we'll have Marcus Hummin, who's Becca's husband and also singer-songwriter, Grammy Award-winning. He is the host of it, so it'll be a lot of fun. But that's my first producing job.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, you again, very busy. Tell us about, we're going to get people to follow you. So tell me about Extraordinary Female Fridays.
Okay, so I got this idea from Beverly Keel, who works at MTSU and is also one of the founding members of Change the Conversation. At the beginning of the year, she said on January 1st that she was going to, every single day this year, she was going to post a picture of a female that she admired and tell why. She's also a journalist, so she writes these beautiful pieces about everything, about these women that inspire her. And I thought, that is such a great idea. There's no way I'm going to do that every single day. And also, I'd love to do that, but also I thought, I take a lot of selfies when I'm out with people.
Sure.
We've already taken about 3, 4, 7. And so I have all these pictures in my phone. I don't always post them. And I thought, I have a lot of pictures in my phone of females I've gone out for drinks with, and I want to post these. So I thought this is a great way to kind of like go through my pictures, talk about women. And so I started doing it every Friday. I was like, extraordinary, because I like the idea of being, you're just an ordinary person, but also that you have to do extraordinary things. You don't have to be, I haven't posted yet about an artist or anyone like that I've worked with. It's people behind the scenes that are doing extraordinary things.
Exactly.
So I started doing that, yes.
Like yourself.
Oh,
but I have learned about some people through your posts.
That's great.
And all big contributors in different ways.
Yeah. And it's funny because there's so many more I want to do, but there also is a part of me I have 4 left. And so I thought, you know what? I feel okay about ending this because it's hard. I mean, because there are so many
it's hard to keep
women
up.
in my life. Yeah.
It's hard to keep up.
So I want to try to hit a few more before the end of the year. And we'll do a recap at the end too.
Okay. All right. So then something that was born in the pandemic, I think, was your book club.
Yes. And it's hysterical because I love the idea of reading. I don't either take the time to read or...
You don't read as much?
I don't. And I thought, you know what? This is a great time to read. And
exactly.
so I decided to pick books that are written by people that I actually know.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I have a stack on my table ready to be read. I've only done 4 so far, but in my heart, they're ready to be read.
And aren't most of them people that you know who wrote them?
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly.
So my friend Stephen Kellick wrote a book. I have a friend who is now 11 today, and she wrote a book in English and French, which is insane, Grayson.
Wow. Well, but I also saw that you have quite a book collection. You just decluttered.
I did. Oh my gosh, Marie Kondo saved me. And this was actually pre-pandemic, but it was, thank God I did it. I mean, it helped me out. At the beginning of the pandemic, if I would have started with the full collection, it would have been too much.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's that whole thing of, I don't know if you've seen the Seinfeld episode where they talk about keeping books. It's like, you read the book. Why are you keeping the book?
Exactly.
So when you decluttered and you left you had your remaining books.
Yes.
How did you decide which ones you were keeping?
That's a great question.
Like, are you going to reference them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah. You got to go back once in a while.
Absolutely. That's the one I've read. That's the only one I've read multiple times.
Okay.
All the books that, that Becca Stevens from Thistle Farms has written, people that I know that I've written to. And also I've realized my favorite kind of book is a Choose Your Own Adventure. Do you remember those?
Choose Your Own Adventure?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I do.
Yeah. And I'm like, why didn't I get in? I need more of those in my life.
Yeah,
so I'm buying some more of those.
So if you were gonna write something yourself, what would it be like?
It would probably either be a Choose Your Own Adventure book, because it's kind of like life, right? Like, do you want to get on the bus with Don today, or do you want to stay in bed for another hour? There's the who knows where it goes from there.
Yeah. And So reading, definitely, I've picked up more reading in this time period, for sure. Something that I always would, like you said, should do more of, want to do more of. And I'll carry a book around forever sometimes, and especially with flying.
Oh, yeah.
Take books, but I'll get into them, but that's like the best reading time. It's on the plane, stuff like that, but then it's just so hard to finish sometimes.
I know. Well, have you done audiobooks yet?
I haven't. I maybe have done something way long time ago, but I just don't feel like there's something about, and you can do the Nook and all those sort of things too. I'm a little old school, and there's something about carrying the paper.
You want the book, yeah. I understand.
That sort of thing too. The other thing, what about journaling? Do you journal?
I try really hard, and actually I found some journals from 8th grade that my mom dug up out of the basement.
Wow.
And it's hysterical, and I thought, man, I got to do that now. I'd love to look back.
Yeah.
Of course, not to shit on myself, but I wish I should have been journaling this whole time to talk about the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
It's fine. We do it when we can.
Absolutely. What about, what are some of the things from the road that we can talk about that you can maybe use anonymous names if you want to, or artist names and things like that?
Yeah.
Road pranks, tour pranks.
That's great. Kenny Chesney was always one that had that last show. Everybody pranked everybody's band. So it was Sugarland opened for Kenny, and they had a song called Baby Girl. And so the crew guys came out in diapers and actual Depends, and did a whole, hair and pigtails if they had hair, and did that. And I'm trying to think about, it's funny too, because in the last few years, with Reba especially, there were no tour pranks. Everyone was kind of chill. So I was trying to remember back. I'll have to think some more about that and see. Other good pranks.
Nothing that stands out.
Nothing that stands out other than diapers.
Nothing that you got incriminated.
No, nothing like that.
What about show emergencies?
There was, with Nako, there was a band member who we were going to Canada. We went Chicago, Detroit, Toronto, and in Detroit, so right after Chicago, he realized he'd lost his passport.
Oh no!
And it was one of those what and how, and so it was just that emergency of find the nearest passport agency, do all the things, call House of Blues in Chicago to have them look for it, all those pieces, and thank God it was actually found at the House of Blues in one of the dressing rooms, and so got on BobNet, thank God for BobNet, and got a runner to bring it up from Chicago to drive it to Detroit, so we made it just in time. But there's been some moments of, especially with international stuff, of going, oh gosh.
And then what about stuff in the moment, it's almost showtime, Janet's famous for wardrobe malfunctions, but there's always those kind of things, or there's something going on during the show, and somebody you have to scramble backstage.
Right. There was actually on a Janet show, one of the dancers had gotten food poisoning during the show.
Yeah.
So she would literally dance, run over, and just puke off the side of the stage. Sorry, crew guy, stage right, crew guy. Yeah. And then go back on and I mean, it was just like, getting her crackers, trying to get her water, like making a little bed for her to lay down when she wasn't dancing on the side of the stage.
So this was like a regular thing?
This was just one time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is just the one time. And of course it was her hometown show of all times.
God.
Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just in that moment try to do whatever you can.
Probably somebody in the audience she was nervous about being in front of.
Yeah, right. An ex-boyfriend or something.
Well, is there anybody else that we haven't talked about that you want to, or anything that you're doing or done that you?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, okay. So one of the things, not to quote Elizabeth Gilbert again, but I'm going to.
Sorry.
So she'd said something, and this was not pandemic related, but it actually kind of fit in now. Was that she said, if you're looking for, because as you know, like we know our careers.
Yeah.
Our pivot, our plan B is we don't have that, so we have to figure it out. So I've been spending a lot of time trying to look for the thing of what to do next. And Elizabeth Gilbert has said, just follow your curiosity. Like, don't think about your passion or just what are you curious about? And I don't even know what that is because I am curious about my job and about travel and all the things we can't do.
Yeah.
So when I was in Omaha last, I was visiting my parents, and I was telling a story about a past childhood experience that I was laughing about when I was playing sports, when my dad made me play sports, and I was horrible. Just the worst. I mean, but I did it. I did basketball and softball and volleyball. And so I was telling this funny story about how he dressed up as a woman because it was a mother-daughter game, and my mom had appendix surgery, so she sat out, and he came like in drag, basically, and played. And so I remember thinking, I know there's a VHS tape of this somewhere around. And so he left, and I said, Mom, let me just go to the basement and look. And she's got, boxes of VHS tapes. So I took a few home, and I came back, and I have a VCR still. Don't ask me why. And my friend Justin, who works with Reba still, said, I have a cord that transfers them from VHS tapes to
that's right. I saw you.
To digital. And I thought, let me just borrow it. And I watched it, and I didn't find that one specific tape. But I started watching these tapes from my grandparents and me as a 8th grader going to Kansas City World of Fun. It brought me so much joy just seeing that and having this, like, these are memories that I haven't watched in 40 years, yet here we are.
You probably forgot that they existed for you to watch.
And most of us have tapes. So I decided, first I was actually going to try to send them out somewhere, and people are charging $30 a tape to do this. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So Justin helped me out with this cord. I started transferring them, and I thought, you know what? Let me just offer this. And so I put together a little website and offered it. And so people are now sending me their tapes. And so I've done a friend in town who's a manager, a girlfriend of mine who I danced with years ago, sent me all the recitals. So now I'm actually seeing me in recitals, and a woman from Omaha sending me some tapes that her mom was in the church choir with my mom. So I'll see that. So it's going to be really special, and it's been, it's a little tiny moneymaker, but also it's just bringing me joy to do something.
Oh, totally. Well, I saw you posting about that, and I thought, are you doing that yourself? That's very cool.
I'm sitting in my office transferring it with my VCR.
But there's a lot, because the way the technology is moving so fast. I mean, I still have a lot of those, well, VHSs for sure, but I have a lot of those mini, digital video camera things. And like, there's 2 or 3 different little sizes there, and you have to, a few years ago, I did some stuff where I put it on DVDs, things like that.
Right. And so now, and you can either do it like a Dropbox, I can send it to you that way, or I can have a USB drive or a DVD. So it's fun. So and I decided to name the company, the website, Digital Get Down Transfer.
Nice.
Which is an NSYNC reference. So just to kind of throw that boy band, getting the boy band in there.
Very cool. Well, we're gonna post all these things.
Thank you.
turn up the heat on that.
Yeah, that's great. And I will say that there's one silver lining to all of this pandemic is that I actually started dating somebody at the end of last year.
Okay, that's right.
And because of this, like normally we'd be on the road and we probably wouldn't see each other.
Yeah.
But because of this and because he can work remote, I've seen him a ton and our relationship has grown. So that's been a really nice.
Cool.
Who knew that was going to be a thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the test of your relationship if you see each other too much.
I know.
Mine always work best when I'm gone. So it's...
Well, I said, let's continue to date. Let me go back on tour and then see if you still want to date me after I'm gone for 300 days a year.
Well, exactly. No, it's definitely the extreme, and that's a whole other podcast just talking about relationships and being on the road and relationships.
Totally.
So, riding the bus is therapeutic for both of us. So good to do this.
Thank you.
What about road food? You're a pretty healthy eater, aren't you?
Yes. I should say this. Catering, Dega catering specifically.
Yeah.
Man, I miss that so much.
Totally.
Like just having somebody cook for you. And so that was the other part too, coming back here and having to cook. I'm learning how to cook now. I'm 45. I'm just now learning how to cook because I never had to.
Right. It's always provided for you.
So that's fantastic.
But what about traveling down the road? Where do you have to stop? Is there stuff in Omaha that like you can't get here that you got to have?
There's a sandwich shop called Runza, which I didn't really eat growing up. It's like minced meat in a hoagie roll that's all cooked together.
Okay.
It's pretty amazing. But there's nothing really specific food-wise, but the Omaha Old Market downtown area is my favorite place. Like,
very cool.
If I had to move back to Omaha, it would be down there because it's so cool. So I love going there. And
so what about when we're doing after-show food and things like that? What do you...
Man, I can't, you put a pizza in front of me, I'm going to eat it. It's 1 a.m. You're not even hungry. You're just like, it's hot. It's right there. But I try to do like either the salad or the cereal on the bus. That's sort of a safer bet.
That's the trick, though, is at the end of the night, and there's hardly anything else available unless you've pre-planned this.
Yes.
And which you have to be really good about to pre-plan. And that pizza's hot and ready.
Whew. That's hard.
Yeah.
Or if you go to a fair or festival and you get a corn dog.
Oh.
Come on. You don't want to pass that up.
I always go and find all the fried stuff, all the deep fried Oreos and bacon and...
So bad.
I know.
It's so good.
Well, we're gonna post this stuff, but let's talk about where to follow you, where to find you, and all the things you're doing.
Okay, so you can find me at Snellycat.
Yep.
On Instagram and Facebook. On Twitter, I'm at Carolyn Snell, although I really don't do anything on Twitter. Because somebody has Snellycat. Who stole Snellycat?
Oh,
some girl.
With an N?
Yes.
Oh.
I got in late to the game. It's fine. There's also actually a Chicago Bulls basketball player. What's it? Baseball player. Basketball player named Tony Snell, and they call him Snellycat.
Really?
And I'm like, because I own Snellycat.com, so if he wants to buy it from me, I would sell that.
I bet he's tried.
Yeah, right.
So Snellycat.com is your website.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Listeners and viewers, watch, listen, and learn. She's very inspiring to all of us. And when we get back out with Alanis, look at this. When we get back out with Alanis, wave and say hello to Carolyn.
Yeah, please do. And I'm grateful to Alanis too for just giving us the opportunity at the beginning of the year, and let's pray to God and all the saints and angels.
It'll now be next year will be the 26th anniversary of Jagged Little Pill. All right, she is Carolyn Snell. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know what you thought by leaving us a comment. You can also follow us on these social networks. And if you want to see more, please like, share, and subscribe.